I'm out on the trail this morning with Project Axum, my third ride on it. Super awesome. That's Project Axum DP because it has the dropper post. We'll see that probably coming up Sunday. But today I want to talk about trails and trail tips for the novice rider, or the first time or two that you're out on a trail, because there's some basic tips that I don't see covered. This is basic stuff, and I have 5 tips, so let's just go right into it. Tip number 1, take it slow. This trail looks very smooth and very unintimidating, but the faster you go, you start realizing. Take an example here, just a few feet from the bike. By the way, look at this huge paw print. Looks like a perfect wolf paw print. I'm sure it's just from a dog, but just a few feet from my tire here. Little roots, big roots. Go down just a little bit further here. More roots, and this is on the smooth section. So if you're a new rider, you start pedaling as fast as you can, these can jump out and surprise you. And the faster you're going over them, the larger of a jolt it's going to make. And I've seen people lose grip on the handlebars the first time. They're just not sure of what they're doing. Think it's all easy peasy. Going down some smooth and then hit this, and things get crazy quick. And your bike caliber is going to play a large role in this too. Big box bikes out of the box, not very good sometimes with the forks. So even those little small roots can be super jolting, like I've just said. But even on a modified bike, if you haven't ever ridden a trail before, be careful. Take it slow, just trust me. Tip number 2 involves the bike again, but this is to make sure that everything is tight. If your bike has a quick release front wheel, check that skewer and make sure it's tight so that your front wheel doesn't get loose, because I've been guilty of this. I've been out before on a bike that I forgot I'd worked on and not tighten this down. Thought, wow, this just seems oddly rougher than normal. It was actually my front wheel loose. Not a good thing if I would have decided to take a quick hop over something. Even if your bike doesn't have a quick release, check the nuts. Make sure those are good and tight. But that's a tip off. If your bike doesn't have a quick release, at least on the front, you really need to go back to rule number 1 and take it super slow, because that's going to tell me you don't have a very good fork. Because if they don't put a quick release on them, they go really cheap with the forks. And that can be problematic. Also, take the bike, sandwich the tire between your knees, and work back and forth on the handlebars and make sure that there's no wobble here, because that can be an indication that your stem isn't tight. And I'm not getting technical here, this is basic stuff, but those 2 bolts, sometimes they're on the same side. Just wobble that front wheel and make sure that your bars don't move counter to the wheel when you're wobbling. That should all be fixed and go where you think it's going to go. Number 3, avoid features. And what I mean by that are those little jumps that they make on trails, or sometimes large jumps that they make on trails, or other things that look like they're going to require skill. This also somewhat refers back to tip number 1, because while you're taking it slow, you want to look way ahead and see what's coming. And sometimes you can, and that's again where slow comes in handy, because if you come around a curve and there is something you're not expecting, case in point, sometime around Christmas, I recorded a video and I showed this area, and there were little ruts where people had emergency braked leading up to this jump. And I could tell by looking at those ruts that quite a few of the bikes were lower end and that they got a shock, probably because they were on a shocker, something like the Hyper Shocker, with those 1.95 inch wide tires. I could tell by the ruts. So be careful so you don't accidentally get yourself into something like this, because even worse than riding over this fast would be riding slow and not knowing it's there and only making it a quarter of the way up before you come back down. Number 4, safety gear. Make sure you wear a helmet. This is my 3rd, I think, of these Bontrager Solstice helmets. Good helmets, but I also have a Rudy Project helmet that I'll be showing off in just a bit. I've been testing it. Fortunately, it's an exception. More than the rule, but more than once. I've been out here and I've seen someone riding without a helmet a couple of times. Going back to that Hyper Shocker, I saw someone with a Hyper Shocker hitting the first part of Wildwood. Now, I'm out on the second part. We call this, well, I don't even know what this second part is called, but the first part is on that hill off in the distance there, and that's called Ranger because there's a ranger station back there. But on the Ranger side, I saw someone hitting the trail for the first time on their Hyper Shocker, no helmet, and they were with someone that I knew. Not only that, but that person didn't have on a helmet. And riding mountain bikes, no joke, I can't tell you, probably even on this helmet, there are probably a couple of little nicks and dents here and there, yeah, where things have hit me, or I've hit my head on limbs, little small limbs rolling by a tree where they're hanging over. I'll see if I can edit in one that nips me more times than not, but not in a dangerous sort of way. But if I didn't have a helmet on, cue the crows, but wear a helmet, be safe. Not only a helmet, wear gloves. I see this a lot, even from seasoned riders that I see out here, no gloves, which doesn't make sense. Because trust me, there are going to be points, even on some small stuff, where you accidentally go over. And if you do so with a raw hand, do you remember when you were a kid? You would fall on the street and you'd get those little pebbles embedded in your hands and it hurt like crazy. No damage, but it just hurt like crazy. Without gloves, the exact same thing can happen on the trail. And it can happen more often than you expect. Because you're on a trail, you're not on a smooth city street. You're on curves and dirt and loose sticks and rocks. So wear gloves and wear a helmet. Basic safety tips. I wouldn't think I would need to include these, but I am. So there they are. Tip number 5, and something I never have seen mentioned anywhere regarding trail riding and safety, and that's don't ride with things in your pockets. An example, keys. These can become weapons if you fall over. I mean, some keys are long and there are arteries and things like that in a leg. So you don't want to accidentally do more damage than is coming if you crash. And again, that's going to happen. Even light crashes, if you have sharp, pointy things in your pockets, that can be bad. And I've been guilty of this myself many times, even today. When I was filming this video where I had notes about not doing this, I didn't check my pockets and then I realized, oh great, I forgot to put them in my backpack. I had my keys in my pockets leading up to this point. So don't be me. Don't put your keys in your pockets. Put them in your backpack or on the bench where they land in front of the backpack. So there we go. 5 tips for riding for novice riders. Your first time or your first few times on a mountain bike trail and ways to keep it safe. I hope these tips helped you out. If they did, give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already, and make sure you have that notification bell active. It's the only way to get notified of new videos. And with the new live streams coming regularly, and there will be lots of new live streams coming because I conducted a poll recently and 65% of the people, overwhelmingly, said go rogue, make them whenever I feel like I should make them. And I noticed when I had the monthly, weekly, or bi-weekly part, there was a greater percentage that said weekly, so I'm pondering maybe even doing a weekly live stream. So you want to make sure you have that notification bell active so you don't miss those. Thanks so much for watching KevCentral. I hope these tips come in handy. Have a great day.